Do you have a paranormal encounter you'd like to share with us? Send us an email with your story for a chance of it being featured on Weird World. Step into the shadows of the unknown with another 3 true and compelling accounts of parallel universes. This collection invites you to explore strange and eerie experiences where familiar landscapes mysteriously change, realities shift after life-threatening events, and even a best friend seems to exist in an alternative world for a day. Join us as we delve into some of the perplexing mysteries of parallel universes. A town that didn't exist. Back in 2011, a young man named Casey Turner, aged 19, had been compelled to change his living situation temporarily, awaiting the lease of his new apartment. The relocation had put him a far distance from his workplace, requiring a roughly hour-long southward drive along Highway 45. At the time, Casey was employed in Spring, Texas, where his job offered him considerable leeway owing to staff shortages and a status as one of the more seasoned members of the night crew. During Casey's first commute from his new location, he found himself hopelessly lost. The road he had been driving on, which he believed to be the highway, morphed abruptly into a single-lane road after a twist, and further along it transformed into a mere dirt path. From the moment it ceased to be a highway, there were no available detour or turn-offs. Casey was taken aback by this unusual scenario. Despite his countless travels up and down Highway 45, he had never encountered anything similar. He resolved to continue driving until he found a rest stop or some similar location to use his GPS and reroute. His unease grew when a full 20 minutes passed without spotting a single vehicle or an opportunity to halt or divert his course. Upon sighting an upcoming bridge, Casey clung to the hope that there would be a turnaround spot on the other side. That's when he saw the sign, "You are now entering Scotia." At this juncture, Casey realised he was inevitably going to be extremely late for work. He attempted to text his boss, but there was no signal. In a mix of resignation and curiosity, he decided, "Oh, what the hell, I'm going to get in trouble anyway. May as well check out this place for a few minutes and see where I ended up." The town of Scotia was disconcertingly eerie. It seemed to have been deserted for decades, with crumbling buildings tarnishing the landscape, none of which were illuminated. There were no signs of life, no cars, no people, and oddly enough, not even animals. The town's roads were a patchwork of dirt paths and traditional roads in various states of decay. From a higher vantage point, as Casey drove around, he noticed that Scotia was essentially an island. Beaches surrounded on all sides, with bridges providing the only connection to the mainland. After about a half hour of fruitlessly driving around in search of any signs of life, Casey managed to find his way back to the bridge he'd entered from and promptly escaped the ghostly town. Once he arrived at work, a staggering 2 hours late, his boss beckoned him into his office for a discussion. Given that Casey had been employed there since he was 16 and had never been even a minute late before, his boss was open to hear his explanation. As Casey recounted his strange detour honestly, his boss's concern seemed to grow with each passing detail. Out of curiosity, the boss and another co-worker decided to consult a map, as they weren't aware of any deserted towns in the vicinity. They found a place named Atascocita and hypothesized that Casey might have misread the sign. However, when they opened Google Street View, Atascocita bore no resemblance to the town Casey had described. Their only shared traits were the somewhat similar name and a bridge crossing a lake, but the town Casey had stumbled upon was encircled by water, with bridges connecting it on all sides. One of Casey's co-workers, who was present that day, remains convinced that Casey somehow misinterpreted the bustling old-style town of Atascocita as a long-abandoned ghost town, simply because they couldn't locate any Scotia on the map, despite the towns sharing no commonalities. 2 years later, when Casey moved back to Spring temporarily, he attempted to locate Scotia once again, this time intending to record his experience as proof of its existence. However, unfortunately, despite his thorough attempts to retrace his steps, he was never able to find that eerie, desolate path to the bridge again. I think I died. On New Year's Eve 2020, Jessica Thompson was about to finish work when she fell down a flight of stairs. She distinctly remembers the shock that registered as she opened her eyes, realising she'd just broken her nose on the hard concrete step. She couldn't shake off the feeling that she had actually died that day on those stairs, bleeding out, only to somehow transition to another universe. Since then, she's noticed subtle shifts in her reality, including certain events she clearly recalls from the past that seem to have never occurred. The first strange incident was immediately after her fall. Jessica had used her mask to stem the flow of blood from her nose. While at the hospital, she had told her boyfriend to dispose of the mask, a blue cloth one with polar bears. However, when she was finally able to return to work 3 weeks later, she found the same mask in her bag inexplicably clean. She went back to the stairs where she'd fallen, looking for signs of blood or any forgotten items. The concrete stairs at the back of the office building were still dust-ridden and appeared to have not been cleaned, and there was no trace of blood. Furthermore, Jessica noticed that the people around her seemed slightly different. Relationships started to shift, and she began to grow distant from those she'd once been close to. The strangest occurrence, however, happened one night while she was in bed with her daughter. Her daughter accidentally kneed her in the chest, and when Jessica checked to make sure she's okay, she felt a lump. Knowing that breast cancer ran in both her maternal and paternal sides of the family, she quickly texted her mother about it. Her mother had been diagnosed with cancer when Jessica was around 12 or 13 years old. The disease had been detected early, so her treatment was relatively mild and involved injections in her breasts. She distinctly remembers her mother explaining the situation, teaching her what to look for and emphasising the importance of regular checks as they grew older. But in response to her text, her mother shockingly denied ever having had cancer. This revelation was startling. Jessica distinctly remembered the conversations about the disease, her mother's tears, and the notes she'd written to her friends about the situation. Ever since, she's continued to encounter bizarre inconsistencies like this, and has been at a loss about how to handle the increasingly bewildering turn her life has taken. Best friend from a parallel universe. This incident occurred when a young boy named Arjun Patel was in the 8th grade. Arjun and his 4 friends made up a tight-knit group, but something unusual was about to disrupt their normal school day. Initially, everything was as it usually was, with the English teacher leading the first class. However, when the maths teacher walked in, after the end of the first period, one of Arjun's friends asked why she was there. His confusion puzzled Arjun, especially when his friends insisted that their former female maths teacher had quit and been replaced by a new male teacher. Arjun initially shrugged it off, assuming his friends were joking, as friends often do, but the oddities did not stop there. During recess, the group headed to the playground to eat their lunches as usual. Once again, Arjun's friend expressed bewilderment, this time at the sight of a building in the schoolyard. Despite Arjun and the others explaining that it was the activity building housing labs, the AV room, and arts room, and had been there for years, the friend reacted as though he was seeing it for the first time. Then, when they began to share their lunches, Arjun's friend surprised everyone by bringing meat, despite being a staunch vegetarian. This startling deviation from his usual behaviour set the rest of the group on edge, and all the rest of the day proceeded normally. The real twist was yet to come. The following day, they all returned to school as usual, including Arjun's perplexing friend. He handed his schoolbook to the teacher for signing, a standard practice if a student had been absent the previous day. The note he presented was supposed to explain his absence and bear a parent's signature, but everyone, including the teacher, distinctly remembered him being present the day before. At first, Arjun suspected a prank, but the presence of the parent's signature added an eerie twist to the situation. At the time, everyone suspected ghostly intervention, even Arjun. However, in light of reading other accounts of potential parallel universe strangeness, Arjun now believes that his friend had somehow crossed over from another parallel universe that day, only to return to his own the following one.